All right. Hello. Welcome back to Blue City Reviews, or uh, if you're watching this on the 31 Days of Horror, the challenge I do every year. Thanks once again for watching. I haven't been on my channel for a while because we've been finishing up and releasing our own film, and I thought it in poor taste to critique other people's work while I'm promoting my own. But I had some interesting things to say about Jeepers Creepers Reborn, which not sure exactly when it came out. I watched it at an acquaintance's house tonight I'm not sure he rented it or in any case, I was quite surprised because I have had everybody, literally everybody, from close friends to fellow reviewers tell me to, quote, avoid it like the plague, end quote, and worse. Even going so far as to say it makes Jeepers Creepers 3 look like a classic. So, when I hear things like that and all of this negativity being fired like a machine gun, naturally, I had to watch it eventually, right? I just had to. And, well, first, I just want to start by talking about the other installments in the franchise, which I wouldn't call myself like a big fan. I really liked the first film, which I saw in the theater back in 2001, 2002, something like that. I really liked the cinematography, the score by who was it? Bennett Salve. I thought was very effective. Justin Long really stole the show, carried the whole thing. Great monster, well performed by Jonathan Breck, I believe. And via the Fangoria article they released around the time this came out, everybody sort of knew that the director had done some terrible things. But in those days, you didn't really get all of the details unless you really went out and researched it, which a lot of us didn't. A lot of people didn't even have the internet in 2001, at least not the people I hung out with. But the movie itself, I thought, was very well made. Not perfect, but unique enough. And granted, it's gone down a couple notches for me as time's gone on, having seen the Unsolved Mysteries episode. If you haven't watched that, Google it. Just Google Jeepers Creepers Unsolved Mysteries or something. But I do still like it. It's a solid monster movie. Jeepers Creepers 2 is a bit of a step down. I think he should have gone with his original idea, which was to have the father of the kidnapped kid, the old vengeful farmer, team up with Justin Long's sister from the original and go after the creeper. Why he went with this busload of kids, well, he says that was the real meat of the story. He shouldn't be saying things like that. The subtext is disturbing, but yeah, I think it's okay. I think there are some good scenes. Pretty much all of the young characters are underdeveloped, except for maybe a couple. But it survives, based on a few really great sequences, mainly the opening sequence. And again, Jonathan Breck is great as the creeper, and the score here by Bennett Salve. It's awesome. I actually went out and bought that on CD when it was new. Jeepers Creepers 3, I do not like at all. Now, granted, the cat was out of the bag. All of the info was out about the writer-director when that came out. It wasn't like, some vague articles here and there. So, did that taint my opinion of it? Probably to an extent, but I do really think that, on a technical level, on a storytelling level, all the important levels, even the score was a step down for me. I'm sure they just didn't have the budget to do what Bennett Salve had done. Sorry, I'm trying to find something here so I get all my names right. But yeah, I didn't like part 3 at all. The less said about that, the better. And when everybody said, believe me, Reborn is even worse than 3, I was like, just, wow, my mind blew up. And having just finished it like an hour ago, I can say that I don't agree with that at all. I think Jeepers Creepers Reborn, it's not a great film by any means. I'm sure a lot of people who worked on it would say that. But this, you know what this reminded me of? Like a full moon release for the modern era. Like that's what it reminded me of. Like back in the days, early mid 90s, Full Moon Entertainment. You know, Doll Man, demonic toys, all that shit, like trying to capture the magic of a great monster movie on a shoestring budget. It's completely what this reminded me of. And I'm going to talk about some of the negatives right up front. A lot of the reviews are dead on. I just think they're being too hard on this film. I mean, they're accurate in what they say. There's a lot of CG. Some of the performances don't hit the pitch I think they were aiming for. The script is really not there, even as the first part of a planned trilogy. It's not. It needed another pass or two. That one of the writers is a producer. I don't know. I don't know what all went on there, but the script is just not there. And yeah, there are some really mind-blowingly silly things, in particular the ending. Like, wow, how they ever thought this plan would work. Only in the fucking movies would this work in any way, shape, or form. It is so absolutely ridiculous that I can see why some people would walk out just cursing and annoyed with it. But all of that said, I think there is some really good stuff about this movie. And when I was watching the characters wander ignorantly into the woods for no reason, and this really kind of borderline toxic teenage relationship that is push and pull, and they're constantly teasing each other, and the monster that was very much like moved like Kane Hodder but turned into Freddy Krueger when he needed to. All of this really reminded me of like this guy was trying to do his late 80s, early 90s slasher film, like I said, with a full moon budget. It reminded me very much of, I don't want to necessarily say the 80s heyday, but it was trying to be that, and trying really hard. And even in specific scenes, and spoilers here, when she throws the creepers throwing stars into his eyes, both of his eyes, reminded me very much of Halloween 2, the original 1981 Halloween 2. Only they actually set it up here, which was nice. It just doesn't come out of nowhere. Also, I think that a lot of these shots, people are being way too hard on. There's a lot of digital backgrounds here, but a lot of them aren't terribly done. A lot of them are nice to look at. Some of the performances here are great. A lot of people are hating on this young couple. Oh, it's so unrealistic and they're so toxic. Well, I think some of that may be coming from middle-aged reviewers who don't remember what it's like to be a teenager. Quite possibly. I mean, hopefully not all teenage relationships are like this, but certainly some are. And I think especially the young actor there, let's look up his name. Imran Adams, probably not pronouncing that right, who played Chase, I thought he was very engaging and entertaining. I thought he was very believable. I had no problems with his performance. I thought Sidney Craven, as the lead survivor girl there, was completely serviceable and believable when she was, frightened and kicking ass. And the creeper, the costume-wise, maybe a step down. But again, I think they were going for more of a Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger thing here. The score, I actually really liked the score. Much better than the score in part 3. This is Ian Livingstone, who I can't say I know his work, but for some reason that rings a bell. And his score stood out to me right from the opening shots. I thought, well, this is all right. The director here is Timo Verensala. All right, I think I got that. Yeah, Timo Verensala. And I think at the peak of COVID on a shoestring budget with lots of extras and trying to recreate sort of a horror con type of thing. I think it's Horror Hound, I think is the name of the convention here. I think he did a fine job. As certain people have mentioned, Beetlejuice does show up as an extra quite often, but I'm sure they only had a certain number of extras to work with in a very short amount of time. You know, I can see why people don't like this, though, especially if you're like a Jeepers Creepers fan. I mean, even right down to, I've heard rumors they didn't have all the rights, and that would explain a lot, because they don't even have the Jeepers Creepers song here. And it's featured, it's meant to be featured here more than any of the others. Like, you can tell where they wanted to put it, like 3 or 4 times. Like, he puts it on and starts jamming out to it and kicking ass. But it's not the song. It's like an elevated, it's like a cheap imitation of the song written by the director, who I'm sure did the best he could. But they use this a lot. And it's like, geez, maybe you should have gone a different direction. You know, get creative. He needed a team of more creative people around him, I think. There's just certain stuff that could have been fixed with a little thought. Like the CG'd cops at the ending there. There's a bunch of horribly rendered cops in the background as the 2 leads approach them, and quite possibly they couldn't all be on the set at the same time because of the pandemic. But if that's the case, look, you say screw the cops, you get creative, you focus on the kids, you design a slow-mo shot, you follow the kids, you track them as they walk away from the house there, right? And as they slowly walk into the foreground, the red and blue lights flash on their face. You cue the cops' voices and some sirens and some hustle and bustle, and then you cut to a cop shoving her in the car. There's no need to have, you know, some horrible computer animation for just some cops standing there. It's just silly. But regardless, I think this is a great late night watch. You know, a direct-to-video, direct-to-DVD release that would have been just fine in the mid-2000s before we got all so jaded. I don't think this is that bad. Certainly not as bad as 3. I do not see that at all. I don't see this being worse than 3 at all. That's hard for me to see. But anyways, thank you once again for watching. And I know I was defending a movie here that not many people think is good at all, but I thought it was fine. As someone who has been to film festivals and had people say, boy, that is the worst movie I've ever seen, not knowing that it was my movie. And I know, okay, yeah, it's not perfect, but the worst movie you've ever seen? Really? Really? How many movies have you seen? This isn't even the worst franchise picture I've seen this year. And I liked Halloween Ends too. This isn't even the worst of the big horror guys like that I've seen this year. So anyway, thanks. Cheers.